I think I know most everyone, but I am J.R. Logan. I'm the director of MakeHaven, and I'll be presenting to you today on some of the things that happened in 2020, sharing some highlights, some insights about the organization, and giving you an opportunity to get clarity and ask questions about what's going on. I'm also joined here by Kate, who's our staff member, and Lior, as well as some of our board members who have joined, but I won't introduce individually right now. And let me get the presentation up. All right, you should all now be seeing the presentation. Just to start off, nutshell, of course, it was a year of unexpected challenges, both operational and financial, but our membership was suppressed and our growth was suppressed. It was expected. We're in we're in a good, strong position as an organization. And that's because members have shown support and flexibility. We've had very generous donors, both during our COVID efforts and at year end. And we got continuing support from our sponsors, the state, which makes a grant around innovation, and other grant-making foundations. We also got the PPP, and we were able to get a disaster recovery loan. So that gave us the cash to be able to maneuver and continue. And so although there was these challenges, there's certainly a lot worth recognizing that happened and celebrating it in this report. But first, I just want to start with some of the numbers of what went wrong, what is important for us to think as we curate and protect the community. So there were, there's a couple of identified points where we had to write letters of warning, which is often what we do if there's a violation. If the violation is severe enough, we'll suspend or terminate that member depending on resolution. We only had one of those. There was one concern of harassment, which was addressed by the staff with the parties involved. And we had several incidents of cut fingers was what happened on the accident reports. So do remember if you have an incident that happens or a near miss, to report it. We analyze these and make sure we're trying to find out ways to avoid them. And everyone be aware of your fingers, because that's one of our top injuries. And then there, of course, the near miss being, making sure the table saw was tightened up. So, let's all stay vigilant and make sure we're protecting and curating the community. As far as membership growth, here's what we have done historically, all the way back from 2012 in red. And last year we ended with 370. We actually got up to 400 members. And in the height of COVID, we dropped down to 320. At the end of the year, we were back up to 345, but we fell short of our goal of 455, which is where we thought we were going to be. I actually think that once the COVID issues have been resolved and we're more free to have people in the space and people feel more empowered to be in the space, that we'll see some suppressed demand show up. And I'm hoping that we'll get a recovery that, if it will not get us to the goal that we had originally of 500, that it will get us close. So it's, on and up in my view. We looked at how members joined and why they quit. So when people leave, we ask them questions. And when they join, we ask them how they found out about us. The number one reason is referral from a MakeHaven member. So that's really powerful about how the community is sharing what they've experienced, and they are attracting other people. And right up there next to it is just general word of mouth. So it's working that people are sharing and talking about what happened at MakeHaven. And then other people who are looking for it and may have heard it. The top reason we lose people is relocation. And the second being just that their lives have become too busy and they have not been able to dedicate the time to MakeHaven, followed this year by COVID, which will not be a issue in the future. Just thinking about what membership looks like, who are our members. This is a chart showing the age distribution. You can see that we have a lot of people in the 30-year-old band. That's our biggest bump, but we have representation really across the boundaries, starting at 18 and going into the 80s. When we look at location, now this is limited because this is off of license data, which tends to overestimate people who are out of state, especially when people are students or they've just moved. But from that data, it looks like 37% are in the city of New Haven itself, 60% are in the surrounding greater New Haven County, and then 78% in Connecticut. Informally, I look at that and think that most are probably in Connecticut. So I can assume that, maybe 22% are folks that have moved and haven't yet updated their licenses. Ethnicity. So we have been conscious about wanting to be a community that is representative of the larger community that we're embedded in. So when we've done outreach, marketing, scholarships, word of mouth, we've really tried to maneuver in ways that will bring in more diversity. And to a large extent, that has worked, where the base of MakeHaven's membership is about 11% Black or African American and about a little more than 8% Hispanic or Latino. The people coming in the last year were 12% Hispanic and Latino and 20% African American or Black. That, however, is still short of what we would like as a goal representing the community, where that would be 15% Hispanic and Latino or 30% Black or African American. So that that gives us positive feedback about the interventions, the work that we're doing. Yet says that there's still work to be done if our goal is to represent the community that we serve. Gender is another area where we have been conscientious about what MakeHaven looks like relative to the community. Overall, we're 67% male and 30% female, and a little more than 2% in some other category, where the incoming membership, it demonstrated a better parity, but again, still not a ideal reflection of what the community looked like. There is a lot that happened as far as activity. And even though we had a period of time where we shut down, we were able to issue a lot of badges. And although there's areas that don't have many badges and so on, this to me is a really great indicator of the impact and a real measure of the learning that people are getting from coming to MakeHaven. So over 60 table saw badges were given, and you can see the top several badges, with the woodshop being a big part of what people got as their first badges. But it doesn't stop there. There's a long tail of all of these other badges, and they're sorted in order of how many were issued in this last year. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize those who got the most badges. So you can go to MakeHaven/Leaderboard if you want to see the updated version of this at any time. Last year, we had Kyle as the #1 badge earner. And in this past year, he has been absolutely eclipsed. So much so that the number 10 person has more badges than the #1 person last year. So we've had a lot of movement in the badge race, and several of the people who were in the first list moved up. But the big slot, the top slot, goes to Corey Rice, who's on the call, and in the 1 year earned 51 badges, and I'm sure has now surpassed that. And so I encourage everyone to look at their badges, and I like the idea of gamifying this so that folks are incentivized and encouraged by the community to get as wide set of skills and experiences as possible. So the money. This is a look at our income in 2020. You can see the little line chart across the top. There's several bumps, and those are influxes of grant payments that we got from the New Haven Innovation Collaborative, which was primarily has been a great partnership. You can see there in the pie chart that, in fact, membership being a big portion of the revenue, grants is an almost equal portion of the revenue. And over time, that is going to decline. The goal has always been to have membership be the dominant way that we earn a revenue, and that's so that we're sustainable. you can't depend on grants. But it has been wonderful to get these grants, much of which we've invested into the asset of the different pieces of equipment that we will have for a long time. So it's not just all consumed. When we look at expenses, our top expense is the staff that are organizing and serving the organization, followed by occupancy and operations. Operations includes all of the supplies, the insurance, all the incidentals that it takes to actually run the organization. Here we've broken out tools and then capital investment. Capital investment are the things that are over $5,000 and have a long, durable lifespan. We spend relatively little on marketing and relatively little on education right now, though that may change in the future. An important part of the community is our inclusion to people, of course. And we have a goal with our scholarship program of everyone who wants to utilize the creativity and the innovation available at MakeHaven, they can, regardless of their financial situation. And we were able to distribute, because of the generosity of individuals and foundations, $13,000 worth of subsidy for membership price, for workshops, for participation in foundations of fabrication, and we are supporting needles and threads, participation in that for skill building, complementary to sewing at MakeHaven. So it's a big thanks to all the folks who have supported that and made it possible for all these people. If you know somebody who has been prevented from joining, there's information on the scholarship program at makehaven.org/scholarship. Now we go from looking what happened in the past into what we budgeted for the future. As you can see in our income budget, the grants have budgeted grant has been diminished significantly, and membership and storage has been increased. This, I think, is very possible following the assumption that we will really start to be able to utilize the space and grow the membership as we move into the spring. If that assumption doesn't hold true, this is going to change some of our calculations. There's also, we have the New Haven Innovation Grant up till June, but half of that has not yet been renewed, and we renew it halfway through the summer. So that's, although we have a great relationship there, and I expect we'll be able to renew at a good number, there's always some amount of preparation and work that will need to take place for that to happen. So this really represents our continual march towards sustainability through earning our keep by the value that members get, because those are going to be the most stable source. And then again, the biggest expense is employees. We have less expense expected around tools and equipment because we've done many of our upgrades, and the occupancy. So there's a standard increase in the rent that we get over time, like a step-up program. And so we have to budget for that increase. So out of the numbers and into recognizing some of the things that happened. And the COVID response, I think, was absolutely incredible. In particular, there's Kate and Lior and the group that they formed around them, each taking on specific aspects of the response. Kate took staff lead on producing over 6,000 face masks and developing a system for them to be distributed. And you can see the massive network of volunteers, including Regina here, who helped make that happen. Face shields that were over 2,000 were delivered to hospitals. This is organized by Lior, by Joel and our board, collaboration with others, to be able to rapidly get these in place much faster than the manufacturers could get into place. A rapid response with all kinds of ideas. Not all of them ended up working, but this is how you respond in emergency. Everything from testing sticks for COVID, intubation chambers, strain relief, it goes on. And I think the capstone in my mind of what a makerspace can do when you pull people together was this DIY ventilator. Now, it was designed at the time with the impression that we might have such an overflow that these things are going to have to be rapidly produced or shipped overseas and so on. It turns out that the ventilators did not have quite the demand or crunch that we had thought at the beginning. But this project involved so many members that integrated electronics, mechanical engineering, all sorts of things, and leveraging an open source project, but improving upon it and making it available. So it was an incredible testament to what can be done in the space when there's motivation. We also had so many online workshops throughout that period, and different individuals, members got together to share what they knew, often focusing on software, but also the sewing circles. There were tons of them where people got together and just shared best practices around sewing. John Fitzpatrick, who is a friend of MakeHaven's, worked with us to get a Internet of Things network championed and up in New Haven. And now you see this map with these green spots. These are all hotspots hosted by individuals that are able to communicate to small devices. Basically, it's a Wi-Fi network for sensors and other small devices that only transfer little bits of data. What's amazing about this is it will enable us and our entrepreneurs to be able to design lots of independent battery-powered sensors, essentially smart city devices. And I'm excited to do that in the future. Chris, who's an instructor in metalworking, has moved forward and really elevated our classes that are teaching professional skills in heavy metalworking equipment. So those are Bridgeport classes and lathe classes. Many folks have taken this now, and that's a new watermark for the types and the level of skill and the types of things we can build. You have those skills. And another is Foundations of Fabrication. Corey, who I know is on the call, and several of the students in the course. This was a very ambitious idea, inspired by what we saw happen out of the Fab Lab Academy, which was associated with MIT. They did a How to Make Almost Anything course. We decided to go out on our own and do a variation of it over the course of 40 weeks or almost a year. Huge ambition, huge amount of work on Corey's part, great participation from the folks there. And they've already gone through all of these segments, and they have more to go through. These are being recorded, so you can see there's a link to the videos just on our YouTube channel, and you can learn more about all of the activities. We are going to repeat the program. That's my intention. We may break it into smaller parts or reconfigure it in some way, but this was an experiment, which is a big success about our capacity to hold activities and workshops that really come together. And to give you some, sense of what some of the participants in the class have made, you can see here's some photos: laser cut, glass cut, electronic, all kinds of interesting things. I see a cloud that has been lit up, and I understand Ruby has now been commissioned to expand that idea to others. So the class has worked well to expand folks into things. And there have been facilities improvements. We received an awesome large format printer, and Ruby, our facilitator, is setting it up. That was at the grant of the New Haven Innovation Collaborative. Welding is now a real thing, and it's awesome to see people be able to do this real wielding of a fundamental electricity and fire to fuse metal together. Further, there's a whole bunch of capacity we now have with the English wheel, the shrinker stretcher, so that you can build real metal parts. There was the Form Labs, an incredible machine. It's a resin printer that can print medical grade resins. It can print injection molds. It can print high details. We'll probably be getting a castable wax so that you can do a lost wax process for jewelry and other things. So a powerful powerful tool. And there's more. The tufting gun you see in the top corner that made the rugs has been very popular. We got several, and I plan to do some courses on how to use those. We got a heat treating oven, and you can see some melted bottles, but it can also do knives and other things. We got a more industrial prototyping injection molder, which can, once you've printed your mold on the Formlabs printer, you can now inject and really do small batch production. And we have a max wax melter that was donated. Even more, Denise has been working on some great projects. There's a knitting machine that we had donated and has been set up, as well as at long last, that quilting machine is in pretty good shape, and I'm looking forward to really seeing the first quilts being built on it. The BioLab has been a big project, and one that just finished being set up, but we're about to see the sorts of activities over this next year as we discover what can happen at the intersection of makers and the creating things in the metal shop and biology and learning what you can do. Then there's also the community garden that Lior set up in the back, and we'll be exploring more in the next year. And as far as just profiles and creativity from the general membership, some really cool casting, and there were some, Julie, for example, did a presentation on her casting of the piece you see there, and some mask making, costuming, and like small modeling. Lots of textiles and costumes, including a quilt, which I believe was done not on the quilting machine, but on the other one. Really cool printmaking projects and electronics of various sorts being controlled by Arduinos and other items. Incredible woodworking. A few examples here. Many of these are shared on the MakeHaven, Made at MakeHaven site on our channel, and have been shared on Instagram and on Facebook. So be sure you're following us on those pieces. And then in metal, you can see the water jet cutter has been put to particular use. I see that there's a ornament there that was not done at our space, but that was done by one of our members and shared on the Slack. Joel made that cool ornament using a different type of machine that we don't have.
It's solid, by the way, just in case anybody was wondering. That's one piece of metal.
Wow, cool.
Then there's plenty of 3D printing and design, 2D laser cutting, some examples there that are beautiful. And it's not just creativity, but we're trying to foster entrepreneurship. So just a spotlight, another group that shared, there's On Track Rehabilitation. Basically, they build these platforms to help people that have that are recovering from various brain injuries regain their balance, and it has all sorts of feedback mechanisms. And they've been building various practical prototypes at MakeHaven. They used our advanced fabrication capabilities of the water jet. They did electronics. They did testing. They had several of their interns here. They rented a dedicated workspace, and they certainly got advice and assistance from our volunteers and staff. So that's a great example of how MakeHaven, and just one example, is moving folks forward. And there have been several businesses during COVID. In particular, we brought businesses back first, and that through that, we decided to start registering and trying to collect more information. This is also very helpful for getting some of the economic development grants and support that way. And on your profile, there's a button for add your business profile, and large and small, we welcome them all. It's great for us to get this data. And you can see that there's a large group of folks that have affiliated themselves and filled out a profile saying that they are using MakeHaven in some capacity to advance things. And then when you start looking at what members are affiliated with, even if they haven't specifically registered. This is how people have listed their work or their experience. We have an incredible network of a lot of really small entrepreneurial startups, but also some of the major organizations in New Haven. So when you are interacting and working together, we really have a pretty incredible network. And I know that there's all sorts of small ways, both that we recognize and we haven't recognized, that these individuals have advanced both their individual practices or entrepreneurial efforts, or they have helped their organization do something more innovative or discover something new. So what are our goals in this coming year? Number one, we really have to recover our revenue growth. We've been, on the membership went on the decline, obviously for external reasons, but I'll be working on rebuilding that as COVID pulls away. We want to fill our rentable workspaces. In the back, those really did empty out pretty much during COVID, and that's another revenue center that is important for long-term sustainability. And then I want to grow educational and workshop revenue. The Bridgeport and Lathe classes, those are an intense class with a professional instructor, and therefore we charged for them. I think it's a very fair rate that we charge, but we also are able to generate some revenue from that. And if we can expand those sorts of programs, we should be able to expand our education. Eventually, to the point, I would like to be able to hire somebody to coordinate the education, which would allow us to do more certification programs and so on. And then to continue incubating the diverse activities and all the different types of people that brings in as we go. So yeah, the workspaces and filling those. When we talk about the enhanced education, we're talking not only better classes, but also trying to align them with nationally recognized programs so that when you're taking things at MakeHaven, even though you're doing it the MakeHaven way and you're taking it on your own speed and you're doing your own project, that you can also get access to these recognized and portable certifications. And we've done some work to get the Woodworking Career Alliance. We have several of our instructors able to check you off on those categories. And NIMS machining certifications, we are registered with them, but we need to coordinate a little more and enhance knowledge on that. Foundations of Fabrication will be about lots of making and digital fabrication. And then we've been partnering with Needles and Threads, Catherine, to make sure people have access to sewing. And in all of these, we're going to be working to increase diversity, ethnicity, gender, and to support entrepreneurs and enhance our collaboration with other partners and build our lending library is another thing. So some examples of some upcoming events to look for. The Community Biolab, planned for February 23rd right now is a bacteria painting. Nora is going to be leading that. Basically different bacteria that grow into different colors. You paint them into a petri dish and you get a cool design. We're going to be developing in March a online pitch competition for entrepreneurs. That could be a small business, that could be an invention. But what I want to do is have a small MakeHaven scaled pitch competition so people can practice selling and speaking about their idea. And from there, you'll be able, there's several state and larger competitions for these things that have much larger prizes. We'll be able to help people elevate into those. And so that's one way for us to be a platform to go from a very beginning into something larger. As far as facilities improvements, we are working on a media room that will be capable of podcasting, photography, green screen, video, all sorts of things, as well as a meeting space for the workspaces. Our lending library, which are the only tools you can take home, it's in its early stages, and we're going to be looking for tool donations in order to really fill that out and make it so that there's all the really cool tools that you would need for a new home, a home project or a garden project. You can take those home and use them. And in the back, there's the courtyard patio near where the garden is. That patio is going to be topped by the landlord. And so we're planning to put some sort of tent And we have an outlet installed out there now so that we can do workshops and activities in the outdoor courtyard in the back, which is also being redone. And just to note, if there's other things you guys want, like for example, the coffee roaster, which was recently purchased, you can always make it known at makehaven.org/wishes, where you can vote and show what you have. So just, I need to make sure that we thank our sponsors. I've mentioned them a couple times, but the New Haven Innovation Collaborative, which is working with CT Next to support the innovation programs, of which MakeHaven is a major beneficiary through grants. Acuity Brands, which is a top-level sponsor for us and has several members involved. Stanley Black & Decker, who made a very significant donation of tools, and we'll probably be we'll be reaching out to, trying to enhance our lending library. And then all of our other sponsors and partners who have given us either sponsorship, large grants, or in-kind contributions to help MakeHaven move forward. And there is the board of directors. So the board of directors are the folks that oversee my work to make sure that we're on the straight and narrow financially, that we are operationally working well, that we are following our mission to equip people with the tools to design, invent, and create. This is a group. And of course, we're always looking for new folks. We choose carefully based on having a variety of skills and different networks to reach into. So there's the nomination process. You can nominate someone you think is good. They often are members, but they don't have to be members. They just have to be connected to the mission and care about what we're doing. And that's at makehaven.org/nominate. And a big thank you to who you interact with most often, which is all of our incredible facilitators. We have more than 20 now, and each has brought passion, energy, and excitement. And the MakeHaven experience would absolutely not work at all if it was just the staff. The only reason it works is because we have volunteers who are excited to share their knowledge and to get others involved in the community. So a huge thank you to the facilitators. And if you're looking to be a facilitator, we are interested in bringing people on board. Makehaven.org/facilitate, and you can learn more about that and apply. And if you are looking for more ways to help, you can give feedback. There's a survey. There's the wishes that I already mentioned. We post various tasks and volunteer activities. You can teach, creating a workshop, and recruit other members. We provide some bonuses for providing a referral. So if you refer someone and they write your name in during their sign up, we will give you a month's credit. So it's a win-win. We also have launched a program for the startup desks. So startups and small ventures can request to be awarded, recognized with a 6-month slow ramp up, which really results in less than half of what they'd be paying if they were just paying for the full fee of that space. And our incentive is to give them enough time to figure out if it's valuable, to try some new things and get set up in the space and prove that it's worthwhile. So if you know someone who has a small venture and they're at the right stage where they might need a little space, let them know that we have a workspace award program that gives them a ramp up over time. And another thing you can all do is get involved in the member annual survey. It's only, I think, 9 questions, so it should only take a couple of minutes. We worked hard to really shorten this. This is what informs the benchmarks that the board uses to assess the success of how our members think about how we're reaching our mission. It's data we use when I go to funders. It's report aggregated and reported back to the membership anonymously so that we all know what is going on. So please take a moment and do the survey. So that is my report. I can answer some questions briefly about the report. And then what we are going to do is we're going to break into we're going to share a link, and you're going to go into another program where you can wander around a virtual MakeHaven and actually talk to each other and move around into the, sewing people can go to the sewing area and so on. But what questions do folks have? And Kate, if there's something in the chat I missed, feel free to break in, let me know what the question is.
You really expect more if you can track the chat.
Cool. Well, I'm not getting overwhelmed by questions, so don't be shy. You can type it in the chat if you are intimidated by being in front of the 40 or so people here. Oh, stop screen sharing.
I'd like to know more about the startup desks.
Sure. So one of the initiatives we undertook was providing desks in a co-working environment that's right there in the makerspace. And our hope was that for those folks that are serious creatives that need more space, that are particularly startups, that they would be able to use it. And it's there's a charge. It's month to month, but it doesn't have a commitment. So it's a good stepping stone for folks that might eventually get their own lease on place, but they aren't ready to make a year-long commitment. And that's part of our role as a space that incubates entrepreneurs and creativity. Yeah, and there's on the website there's a bunch more information, including the startup program if you're interested in that. So thank you. Any other questions?
There's a question.
Oh, the certification with facilitators, Woodwork Association. How does it work? Yeah, so the Woodworking Career Alliance, for example, has a number of projects and goals. So it's essentially like our badging, which is one of the reasons we are trying to do it, where you demonstrate some core skills, and then they have you do a project which gets examined, and you do a small quiz on their website. And they have progressive skills leading up to different tools. And then what you have to do is log your time as a woodworker, and they have increasing levels that show that you have logged under the direction of other volunteers or certified instructors enough time that you're like gold, bronze, platinum level, diamond level woodworking. And the idea being that you'd be able to take this if you're interested in a career related to carpentry and have a nationally recognized certification. This is a program that we are rolling out. We would love to have some early participants to work out the bugs. And yeah, please be in touch with me, and I'll hook you up with some of the certified facilitators in order to get that going if you're interested. And it's very similar in the metalworking shop. You do a project, and then the obligation is we have to have somebody who works in industry who does not work or volunteer at MakeHaven, and they have to check your work and use calipers to measure it. And if you measure up, you move to the next level. And so it gives you a ladder to climb of skills. Are there current COVID restrictions to the workshop access? Well, the restrictions are the state mandated restrictions. So we are only allowed a certain capacity, which is half our capacity. So 15 people in the main room, 8 in each of the workshops. Although we have not had that that number happen organically. If you were to arrive and somebody would be there, you would not be able to allowed to enter. You have to wear a mask, and those are, yeah, so we're following the restrictions and guidelines, though people are coming in, and everyone has to register so we can follow up. We're using your door scan to track, contact trace if something were to happen. And we are open and moving forward, although with those restrictions in place. Okay, I think I got the questions, And thank you to those folks that are excited. I'm going to turn it over to Kate, who's going to walk us into this networking experiment that we're about to do. So you guys can actually talk to each other.
Hi, all right. Looks like I'm not echoing anymore, hooray. There was one last question that I can start to address, but JR, if you, or Leor, if you want to jump in about the air purification. We have basically set up, if you've been in the space, you know, we've suggested you wear a coat because we do have the windows open, and we did some testing and basically are using some fans and some additional filtration to get the 6 air changes per hour that is recommended. So that's kind of how that is happening. We also have the filter in the back room that we're using, which is the one space where you can take your mask off in the eating space. Leor, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just that I think we spent a lot of time and money investing in the exhaust system in the metal shop as well as the exhaust system in the wood shop. And so both of those are now being used 24/7 to pull air from the main room and exhaust them through the wood and metal shops. We've propped the windows open with screens in them in the main room, which is why I'm wearing a jacket, because it's a little chilly in the space, but that's just something that we've adapted to. You know, keep your jacket on in the space now if it's chilly, because that enables us to have a really high throughput of air. So we have really good circulation. We got an anemometer, which measures wind or air movement. So we actually calculated that we have really good, above the recommended amount of air movement through the space. And then, as Kate mentioned, in addition to that high level 24/7 air movement and exchange, we have the air filters, which we've put in rooms that aren't connected to the main room. And we have the main air handling system, which is constantly moving and circulating and cleaning the air. We put HEPA filters in that system, so it's cleaning the air as it gets circulated. And in response to Ryan's question in the chat, not to our knowledge, we've not had any COVID cases on site that anyone has reported that has required us to do any tracing or shutting down of the space.
Right. The RFID cards do enable us to be in an excellent position for contract tracing should it ever come up, and we've got the guest waiver and everything that we're positioned so that we could, but we have not been called upon, and we have not had any cases or concerns brought to us. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'm gonna share my screen just for a second, I hope. Let's share the whole thing, why not? All right, go into here. Just to let you all know, what we're about to do is try out Gather. And this is a fun site. I think this was brought to us by our friends and members at Escape who use it. And it's basically a site where you can, it's like a Zoom, so you'll still see your face, but you will have a little avatar that gets to walk through our space. And as you can see from the slides, we have some people that will be kind of hanging out in different areas. And as if we were in real life, you can move your character around as you get nearer to a person. You will see them. You'll see their little square like you do in Zoom, and you'll be able to hear them and speak to them and have conversations. It's something that seems really fun and could have other options, so we're excited to try it. And this slide just shows you kind of what to expect when you click on that link, makehaven.org/gather, which I'll put in the chat. And basically it'll bring you to this screen right here. This one on the left that's just has you enter your name. This is a starter screen where you can turn your camera and your sound on and off. And it'll just kind of default these things. And then when you say join the gathering, you'll be brought into this space that hopefully will be familiar to you and your little person. You can use your arrow keys and walk around and talk with other people. So I'm going to invite you all now to do that. I'll also put that link on Slack. If anyone gets lost or has any questions, feel free to shoot me a message.